Picture this. You've just had the worst week of your life. Your boss piled 3 people's work onto your plate. You skipped lunch twice. You sat in traffic for an hour each way. And by Friday afternoon, you're absolutely done, cooked, running on caffeine and willpower and the quiet rage of someone who has given everything and gotten very little back. So you do what any reasonable human being does. You treat yourself. Maybe it's a dinner out that costs twice what you'd normally spend. Maybe it's that jacket you've been eyeing for 2 months. Maybe it's upgrading your phone even though the one you have works perfectly fine. Maybe it's just a long weekend away that you absolutely cannot afford but somehow put on a card anyway. And in that moment it feels completely justified. Because you worked hard. You survived something difficult. You earned this. Here's the problem. That thought, "I deserve this," might be the single most expensive sentence in the English language. And the terrifying part is that it doesn't feel like a financial decision at all. It feels like self-care. It feels like justice. It feels like the bare minimum you owe yourself after everything you've been through. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up hitting a little too close to home. Now, before we get into why this mindset is so financially destructive, I want to be clear about something. This video isn't about telling you to stop enjoying your life. It's not a lecture about skipping coffee or packing your lunch every day. What it is about is understanding the exact psychological mechanism that keeps high earners stuck, that turns raises into lifestyle inflation, that makes people earning double what they made 5 years ago somehow feel just as financially squeezed as they did back then. Because here's what's wild. The "I deserve this" mindset doesn't just affect people who are struggling. It hits hardest on people who are actually doing well. People who are working hard, earning decent money, and genuinely trying to get ahead. And it does its damage so quietly, so gradually, so reasonably, that most people don't even notice it's happening until years have passed and the numbers don't add up. So let's talk about where this actually comes from. The "I deserve this" thought isn't random, it's triggered. And understanding what triggers it is the first step to understanding why it's so hard to resist. The most common trigger is effort. You worked hard, therefore you've earned a reward. This is deeply wired into how humans think about fairness. We have an almost biological sense of reciprocity. Input should equal output. Sacrifice should be compensated. And when that compensation doesn't come from the outside, when your boss doesn't notice, when your pay doesn't reflect your effort, when the universe fails to reward your hard work appropriately, your brain steps in and compensates you itself. Through your wallet. The second trigger is stress. When you're under sustained pressure, your brain's ability to make long-term decisions genuinely deteriorates. This isn't a character flaw, it's neuroscience. Chronic stress depletes the mental resources you need for self-regulation, which means the more stressed you are, the less capacity you have to resist impulsive spending. And the more justification your brain generates for why that impulsive spending is actually fine. The "I deserve this" thought arrives precisely when your defenses are lowest. It's perfectly timed. Like a salesperson who calls right when you're exhausted and just wants the conversation to be over. The third trigger is comparison. You see someone at work with a nicer car. Your friend just posted photos from a holiday that looks incredible. Your neighbor got a renovation done and the house looks amazing. And something in you quietly notes that you work just as hard as these people, maybe harder. So why shouldn't you have what they have? This isn't envy exactly. It's more like a recalibration of what you think you deserve based on what you see around you. And social media has turned this trigger into something that fires dozens of times a day. Now here's where it gets really interesting. None of these triggers are irrational. Effort should be rewarded. Stress relief is genuinely important. Fairness matters. The problem isn't the feeling. The problem is the financial behavior the feeling produces, and more specifically, the way that behavior compounds over time. Let's talk about what "I deserve this" actually costs. Not in individual purchases, but as a pattern. Say you earn $70,000 a year. That's a solid income in most parts of the UK, Canada, or Australia. You get a pay rise to $80,000. That's an extra $833 a month before tax. Meaningful money. And here's what typically happens. Within 6 months, your lifestyle has quietly absorbed almost all of it. Your rent went up because you moved somewhere nicer. You deserved a better place after years in that cramped flat. Your car payment went up because you finally upgraded. You'd been driving that old thing for ages. You deserved something reliable. Your food spend went up because you started buying better groceries and eating out more regularly. After years of watching every dollar, you deserve to enjoy your meals. None of these individual decisions feels like a mistake. Each one feels earned. Each one feels like a reasonable response to finally being in a better financial position. But the combined result is that your $10,000 raise produced almost zero improvement in your actual financial security. Your savings rate stayed roughly the same. Your investment contributions barely moved. The gap between where you are and where you want to be didn't close. It just got more comfortable to ignore. This is lifestyle creep, and I deserve this is the engine that drives it. But here's what most people completely miss about lifestyle creep. It's not just about spending more, it's about permanently raising your floor. Every time you upgrade your lifestyle in response to earning more, you reset your baseline. The nicer flat stops feeling like a treat and starts feeling like the minimum standard you need to be comfortable. The better car stops feeling like a reward and starts feeling like what you're entitled to. The regular restaurant dinners stop feeling like a luxury and start feeling like just how you eat now. And once your floor rises, it almost never comes back down. Because now you'd have to feel like you're going backwards, and nobody wants to feel like they're going backwards. This is the trap. Not any single purchase, the permanent elevation of what you consider normal. Let me give you the numbers on this because the math is honestly brutal. Say you're 30 years old and you get that $10,000 raise. You have two choices. Option 1, you lifestyle creep. You absorb the raise into your monthly spending across a nicer place, a better car, more eating out. Net additional savings per month, roughly $100. Over the next 30 years with compound growth at 8% annually, that $100 a month grows to approximately $136,000 by the time you're 60. That's not nothing, but it's not life-changing either. Option 2, you keep your lifestyle exactly where it is and redirect $700 of that raise directly into investments. Over the same 30 years at 8% annually, that $700 a month grows to approximately $950,000, nearly $1 million, from one decision, made once, about not upgrading your lifestyle when you didn't actually need to. The difference between those two outcomes isn't income, it isn't luck, it isn't some secret investment strategy. It's entirely whether you let "I deserve this" make your financial decisions for you. Now I want to talk about something that financial content almost never addresses, because most of it stops at spend less, save more, which is about as useful as telling someone who's tired to sleep more. What I want to talk about is why this pattern is so much harder to break than it looks. The reason "I deserve this" is so powerful isn't just psychological, it's social. When you earn more, the people around you expect your life to look different. Your friends expect you to come out more, spend more, keep up with where the group is going. Your family expects you to be more generous, to cover the bill occasionally, to show up to events with something to show for your success. Your colleagues signal status through what they wear, what they drive, where they holiday, and if your visible lifestyle doesn't keep pace with your income, people notice, and sometimes they say something, or worse, they don't say anything, but you can feel it. There's a real social cost to not spending. Nobody tells you that. Every personal finance video talks about the financial cost of spending too much, but nobody really talks about the social cost of not spending enough, of being the one who still drives the old car, of being the one who suggests the cheaper restaurant, of being the one who doesn't upgrade when everyone around them is upgrading. And this is where "I deserve this" becomes almost impossible to separate from "I need this to belong." The spending isn't just about reward anymore, it's about identity. It's about signaling to the people around you and to yourself that you're doing well, that the work paid off, that you're not falling behind. Which brings me to something really important that I want you to sit with for a moment. The "I deserve this" mindset assumes that the reward for hard work is a higher standard of living right now. But what if the actual reward for hard work is freedom later? What if the real payoff isn't a nicer flat or a better car or more expensive dinners? What if it's the ability to walk away from a job you hate at 50 instead of grinding until 67? What if it's never having to take a call from a debt collector? What if it's being able to say yes to your kids without doing mental arithmetic first? That version of deserving something is invisible. You can't post it on Instagram. Nobody at work can see it. Your friends won't notice it when you walk into a room, but it compounds, silently, patiently, until one day it becomes the most valuable thing you own. The people who actually build wealth aren't the ones who deprive themselves. They're the ones who figured out what they actually want to deserve. And then they built their spending around that answer instead of around whatever their brain served up after a hard week. So what does this actually look like in practice? How do you break a pattern that feels so emotionally justified every single time it fires? The first thing is recognizing the trigger before the transaction. The "I deserve this" thought almost always arrives in a specific emotional state: exhausted, stressed, resentful, or comparing yourself to someone else. When you learn to notice that state, you can create a gap between the feeling and the purchase. Not to deny yourself, just to ask one question: is this what I actually want, or is this what feels good right now? Those are different questions, and the answer changes a lot depending on which one you ask. The second thing is pre-deciding your rewards. One of the reasons "I deserve this" is so financially damaging is that it's unplanned, it's reactive, it happens in the moment, which is always the worst time to make financial decisions. But if you build intentional rewards into your budget, actual things you've decided in advance that you want and that you'll spend money on, then you're satisfying the same psychological need without letting it run unchecked. You're not depriving yourself. You're just making the decision when you're calm instead of when you're fried. The third thing is separating self-care from spending. This one matters more than most people realize. A huge portion of "I deserve this" purchases aren't actually about the thing being bought. They're about the feeling of being looked after. Of someone, in this case yourself, acknowledging that you've been through something hard. But that feeling doesn't require a purchase, a long sleep, a slow morning, a walk, a conversation with someone you trust. These deliver the same emotional result without the financial cost. The purchase is just the most available and most marketed version of self-care. It's not the only one. The fourth thing, and this is the one that actually changes the pattern long-term, is redefining what you deserve. You deserve financial security. You deserve to not be anxious about money at 3 a.m. You deserve to have options when things go wrong. You deserve to retire on your terms rather than someone else's schedule. You deserve to build something that lasts longer than the dopamine hit of a new purchase. Once you start believing that, actually believing it, not just intellectually agreeing with it, the "I deserve this" thought starts pointing somewhere different. It stops pointing at the restaurant or the jacket or the car upgrade. It starts pointing at the investment account, at the emergency fund, at the mortgage being paid down, at the slowly growing number that represents future freedom. That's not a deprivation mindset. That's a completely different definition of reward. Look, nobody is going to get through life without ever spending money on something they wanted in the moment. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop letting an emotionally triggered thought make your most important financial decisions for you. Because "I deserve this" doesn't know your bank balance. It doesn't know your retirement timeline. It doesn't know what you're sacrificing 10 years from now to feel better today. But you do, and that's the difference. Start there.